guys, Zambina here and welcome back to another speed build video, and I'm so glad that you're here. Now this is a jungle shack under a rope bridge, and this idea came about from me being kind of enamored with the idea of picking a debug object and like building something just themed around that. Like starting with a debug object and just getting the idea from that. And I am in no way the first person to do this, but I know plenty of other builders do these kind of things. But I really like the idea, and I'm hoping to have more builds like this in the future, like builds themed around a certain debug object. And as you can tell, we are in the lovely, lush and beautiful Selvadorada, and this is a 20 by 30 rental lot. Now you can pick this up and plonk this in any other world if you would like and make it not a rental lot, somewhere where your Sims could live permanently. But I really wanted to build this in Selvadorada because it was the perfect environment, the perfect surroundings. It fit in really well. And it is intended to be an off-the-grid lot. Now, you cannot make rental lots off the grid, but if you put this in any other world, I'm thinking maybe Sulani could work, then you could easily make this into a normal off-the-grid lot. And I'm just working on the exterior. I end up removing the railings from the stairs because I didn't really feel like they fit in, because I couldn't really find any that fit in with the fence I wanted to use. I feel like we really should have railings that match those fences because it would fit a build like this really well. And you'll see that the small building there on the exterior, that is the bathroom. This has an exterior bathroom with a dirt floor because this is not a fancy house full of comforts. It is small, it is functional, and it has everything you need, plus some skill building items. But at the end of the day, it is a simple jungle shack. And as you can see, the interior of the main building is all just one room. It is intended for one sim, really. You could be two in here, of course, because there is a double bed and spaces for two sims to eat. But it is really intended for the one. That's how I kind of built it. But I didn't want to make the bedroom a separate room because I felt like this fit more with the aesthetic I was going for. I wanted to do just one room on the inside from the beginning, just divide it off with dividers. And you can see I'm using all off-the-grid appliances for the kitchen. I believe at some point during this build I put down a non-off-the-grid lamp, but I do realize, and I remove it, that it's even on camera. I realize that it's not off the grid and I remove it. And I have these counters here with some bar stools, and I'm putting an end counter there. It was a little bit odd when my sim was using that to prepare food. It worked just fine, but she was walking back and forth a little weirdly. I don't know if that's just because it's an edge counter and she got confused. Anyway, it works. That's the most important thing. And I have a little seating area there for dining, even though you can obviously sit on the bar stool at the counter and eat as well. I'm not sure where the sim would go. I don't remember where my test sim went to eat when I asked her to make some food to try everything out. And the little wardrobe there at the edge of the bed, I do end up having to move both that and the divider, like the drape that is close to it, because my sim couldn't access it. So the wardrobe is now like all the way up to the bed. It's like as close as it can get without being inside it. And the bookcase is shuffled over a bit and the drape is closer to the bookcase. But it works just fine now. There was just stuff I had to adjust when I was playtesting it. And I used quite a lot of, obviously jungle adventure, but also quite a lot of island living. Because I felt like a lot of the jungle adventure stuff, like the walls and stairs and floors, they weren't really the style I was going for. Like, the jungle adventure stuff is not so much rustic. It's more like there's a lot of like tile and things like that, which works fine for Selvadorada as well, with that kind of style, but it wasn't the style I was going for this particular build. You will also have noticed the fences at the edge of the property, or not at the edge, but you can see it right there. Those are for me to mark out where I'm going to raise the terrain, because you will have seen from the intro, there will be raised terrain on both sides of this lot, and that's where I'm going to put the rope bridge. Now, there were a couple of reasons I didn't put down the bridge first and raise the terrain first. I didn't want to have the raised terrain around while building because I felt like that would be annoying and would get in the way. Now I realized that might be annoying while playing as well. I hope it's not too much annoying. I hope it works. I hope it works out. It was also the fact that the bridge that I used, the rope bridge, it is a debug object from Snowy Escape. And it was odd because usually with a debug object, when you put it down, you can pick it up again. Just like any object, but I couldn't with this one. Like, once I put it down, that was it. And I couldn't use tool on it either. So I was like, I have to put that down last. Like, that has to be the very last thing I do. I do some things after, like, put some vegetation on top of the terrain that I raise. But other than that, that had to be the very last thing I do. And it does float. It floats over the terrain on both sides because I couldn't use tool. I try at some point to, like, use some platforms to try and make it look a bit more natural, but I end up giving up because there's not a lot of space on top of the terrain that I raise. So it looks a bit silly because it's floating, but sadly there was nothing I could do about that. I'm sorry, I hope it's not too distracting. But yeah, that's what that is for. But I do all that right at the end because I wanted it to be out of the way while building. You saw just there I did the bathroom as well. I furnished that. It's quite simple, all off the grid stuff as usual. Here I'm struggling with a lamp to put. I am not used to building off the grid. I don't think I've built an off the grid home before. This is only a tiny home, tiny. It's a small area, like a small house, and I was struggling. So, and that toilet roll. Listen, I put the one that has the toilet roll facing the wrong way, like towards the wall. It bothers me to no end, and that's in the screenshots as well, but I do change it before I upload it because I realized that it's facing the wrong way. And if you face your toilet roll that way, I'm sorry, it bothers me. I can't do it. And this home has laundry as well, so it has that laundry basket you saw just there. I put down a drying line clothesline, and I have that wash tub as well, which I believe will work for washing clothes. And you can see I'm just pulling out all the various things I want to have outside, some activities, things like that. I give her a bike. I say her because my test sim is female, so I always think, oh, I'm building it for her, but anyone can live here or vacation here. This is also, it's on a 30 by 20 lot. I originally intended to build it on the park in Selvadorada because it was a 40 by 20, and that meant I could do more terrain on the sides, like I could make the terrain a bit more expansive. However, I realized that there's only one other 20 by 40 lot in the game, at least on the ones I have. I'm missing a few worlds. The only two worlds I don't have are the ones from Outdoor Retreat and Journey to Batu, and I couldn't find any other 20 by 40 lots other than in Newcrest, and I thought this does not fit into Newcrest. So I ended up moving away from 20 by 40 lot that I originally intended to build it on. I built it on a 30 by 20. Wasn't ideal for my vision, but it worked. And you can see I'm putting down some terrain paint, and I had that lovely, lovely glitch when I went out of this and went back to go get the screenshots. The terrain paint was gone. So I had to reapply it, but I did that the next day because when I realized it was gone and I came back to screenshots, I was like, I'm not doing it again. Because I put quite a lot down. Like when I put down like landscaping and all that, I put it down under the as well. Like I make the landscape under the plants like into dirt, things like that. So I was like, I'm not doing that again. I can't. So I end up doing that the next day when I take the screenshots. And these lamps I put outdoors. It's pretty much the only outdoor lamps I could find that I like that were off the grid. I don't know if they fit really. I guess they kind of do. And you see they've got the windmill and the water collection machine over there as well, which I believe you need to have things like that for an off the grid lot. Again, I'm not super familiar. I should be, but I'm not. And now I have started the landscaping. The landscaping is quite extensive because, well, A, it's me, and B, this is meant to be in the jungle. But again, obviously you can put this down anywhere if you would like. But yeah, it's in the jungle, it's lush, it is kind of overgrown. I end up putting a bunch of rocks at the bottom of the pool because it's meant to be like, it's meant to look like a kind of a river or stream floating through. However, I do end up changing the watercolor to the dark green one. I think it's called the brackish water. It's the one that came with Jungle Adventure, I believe. I think we got 2 with Jungle Adventure actually. But it's one of those. So you can't really see the rocks once I put that down. But I don't know, I kind of like the thought that they were there. I like the fact that they were there, and just, even if you couldn't really see them that well. And I end up using quite a lot of debug. I think I try to use mainly debug, but because I have the Better Build and Buy mod by Twisted Mexi, which includes organized debug, so the debug and the non-debug versions of plants are often like, maybe not right next to each other, but very close. And I believe sometimes I grab the wrong one when I start doing the main landscaping, like all around the terrain, all around the ground. But I try to use as much debug as possible to try and keep the price down. Not that I was kind of going for budget or anything, but I know that landscaping drives up the price so much. I think anyone who's a builder knows that extensive landscaping drives up the price to a ridiculous extent. But I was basically just wanting to make it look like it's just plonked here right in the middle of the wilderness, right in the middle of the jungle. Like, that's what this is. It's just here, it's simple, it doesn't have any electricity, it's just a nice place to go on vacation, basically. Kind of get away from the stress of the city, unplug for a bit, you know, that kind of thing. I don't really know why I gave them a bike. I don't know how well a bike would work in the jungle. Obviously in Sims it doesn't really matter that, you know, they can just bike anyway, but realistically speaking, I don't know how well that would work. Yeah, I'm putting down more stuff under the house, just kind of making it look like stuff is just growing from all under the house. I struggled a little bit with putting things in the right place, but everything is accessible. Like, it is fully playtested, everything works, everything is accessible. She can walk anywhere, my Tessim could walk anywhere. So it worked, it was fine, it was good. There's so much landscaping going on here. I wonder sometimes if I do too much, like if I have this obsession with like covering pretty much all open ground in plants and landscaping just to make it look so lush, because I feel like that's not super realistic, you know? Like, there's always going to be like open ground or grass or lawn or whatever, wherever, depending on where you are, that isn't covered, you know? Like, not everywhere has plants everywhere, but I just like doing that, I suppose. It just makes it look so pretty. I love plants. I need to get more house plants because I love plants. I'm turning into my mother. Oh no, how horrible. That's a joke, by the way. Mom, if you watch this, that's a joke. It's endless, this landscaping. I love it though. I really enjoy doing landscaping. I didn't want to cut it out because this video is actually quite short, like compared to my other videos. I really enjoy landscaping. It's, I don't know, I guess therapeutic in a way to me. It's just nice to see all of it like get covered up and come together, and makes it look more relaxing and natural, and especially on a build like this when it's meant to be just plonked in the middle of nature. You're surrounded by nature basically. I think I do have one issue with getting my sim to access the windmill. I think you only need to access the windmill for upgrading it. Like, that's the only reason you would need to access it. But I think maybe the water collection machine was in the way. I do scoot it back a little bit, but it's maybe possible that it's not reachable, but I don't think it's necessary for anything other than upgrades. Like, it's not an essential function. It's not like the bathroom or the fridge or anything like that. So if that is the case, then I do apologize. You could always move it if you like. If you want to play with this and you want to be able to access it, you could always move it. Like, that's allowed, obviously. And now I am just racing up the terrain. As you can see here, I pick a height and I stick with that. And I did struggle with placing the bridge actually on top of the terrain. I didn't want the bridge to be placed on the same quote-unquote floor as the house, which is how Sims works. Like, even if the terrain's raised, if I just place it around top of the terrain, it would be the same as the house, and then it would be there all the time, even if you like took the walls down or went down a floor. I didn't want that. So you can see here I struggle, and this isn't really where I wanted it, but I got it up there and I went with it. I was like, that's it, that's fine. It just sits there, and you can see I'm struggling a little bit trying to figure out if I can use platforms to make it look better, but in the end, it's just, I get rid of them because they're not working out and it's not worth it. But I hope that isn't too much of an issue for people, the fact that it's floating. I just like the aesthetic, like, and I realize that it looks a bit silly to just have like a couple of squares of terrain just raised on either side, but hopefully you can, like, you know, use your imagination and imagine that it's sitting basically in the middle of a canyon and there's a little stream running down next to the house and a rope bridge over it. I don't know, that was the vibe I was going for. But we are coming up to the screenshots very soon as I finish landscaping the top of this terrain. This build is fully playtested and available on the gallery. All the details for that are in the description below, as well as links to the mods that I use. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any thoughts on this build, I would love to hear them in the comments below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!